Thanks for stopping by Across the Fence. I'm Keith Silva. According to the last census in 2008, there are 70.1 million fathers in the United States. With Father's Day happening this coming weekend, it seems like the right time to talk dads. Dad Guild is a Vermont-based nonprofit founded in 2019 with the mission to support and empower fathers by offering opportunities for connection, education, and community engagement. The organization represents over 1,500 dads across the state. The father of Dad Guild, so to speak, is our guest today, Keegan Albaugh. He's the organization's executive director, and as he proudly proclaims in the group's website, his dream came true when he became a dad in June of 2019. So congratulations, happy birthday to your daughter as well.
Yeah, it's an exciting time. She's pretty jazzed right now.
Yeah, birthday coming up. That's the best when you're a kid.
Yeah.
I'm going to borrow from your FAQ on your website, which is extremely good and perfect. So, Dad Guild, why?
Yeah, so we all know that the transition into parenthood can be really challenging. I mean, it's a beautiful experience. It can also be really isolating. It can be really challenging. It can stir up a lot of emotions. And I noticed that people, you lose sleep, you lose connections with your friends, your life literally changes in an instant. And it's something that no one should be doing alone. And we know that so many dads are not really engaged in their roles as caregivers. And, you go to any play group and, dads can be few and far between. And so how do we create an environment, how do we create a culture where it's truly engaging to dads and masculine identifying caregivers and really celebrates fatherhood?
Once again, I'm not bright enough to come up with this question. This comes from the website. Is this just a fancy excuse for dads to get out and drink beer?
I remember when we first started 6 years ago, someone said, they're like, wait a minute, you guys are going to the brewery to play retro video games on a big screen? Like, why does my partner need to go out for this?
This is Dad Guild?
This is Dad Guild, and is there a Mom Guild?
Right.
But research shows that men prefer casual environments that are peer-led and more kind of like on the fly for a learning approach. And so those are the environments that we aim to create. And so when people say like, gosh, that sounds really fun, it's like, well, yeah, that's the point.
Right.
And also, some of our events do have alcohol present, some do not. We're very aware of the role that substance abuse and misuse plays, especially in parenthood and with men and in social isolation. So we talk about that a lot in our communities as well.
So the answer is yes, but I was also thinking, 2019, tough time to sort of decide to develop a statewide network of fathers during the, beginning of the pandemic.
Yeah, I remember when the pandemic first hit, because we had a lot of momentum, and I was working full-time with Howard Center at the time as an educator. And when the pandemic hit, I had transitioned to working at the Family Room, a parent-child center in Burlington. And when the pandemic hit, it was like, oh gosh, how are we gonna keep building this community? And it was actually really interesting where I think a lot of times men are reluctant to admit that they need help or they need support. And I think the pandemic was this like objective experience for everyone where it's like, hey, no one's doing great right now. This is tough. And if you're a parent and your kid is home from school and you're trying to do all these things, like this is a time where it's safe to say, I could use some support. Right. I could use some connections. Right. So we actually grew quite a bit. And we were doing these like weekly Zoom calls that would have like sometimes 20 to 30 dads on it at night, just being like, man, what are you all doing to get by?
Yeah, well, great. I mean, that great way to build community. Supporting dads supports moms, ?
Yeah. Oh my gosh. There's so much research around, I think we all just saw, many of us saw that some research came out around how maternal mental health is declining when looking at for the past decade. People who are saying they're not doing well, that number is increasing. So that's a problem. And we also know that in the arc of relationships going into, I don't know if you've ever seen the happiness curve of relationships.
I haven't, but I've experienced it, I think.
We all have a little bit at least. But it definitely, like after kids, like again, objective experience, like the happiness goes way down and it doesn't start really going back up until kids are starting to leave the house. And it's a beautiful time. It's great. Yeah, it's interesting research, but it just adds to the stress. And then there's a lot of research how moms carry most of the mental load. They're carrying a lot of the cognitive labor and they're juggling a lot of the tasks. They're the ones that schools are reaching out to the most. They're the ones making pediatricians appointments. And I'm just this isn't always the case, but just research and data that we can point to that's like, hey, there's evidence that supports this. And so if dads can be more engaged in caregiving, nurturing their domestic responsibilities, if they can have their own social networks for organizing things and also going to other people for support, so their partner's not their exclusive therapist. That all of that can help alleviate a lot of stress that I think moms experience.
Certainly, on all the men on this side of the table are the person that lets their partner, lets their spouse deal with all the appointments and school stuff. So I can't speak to that side of the table, but I hear what you're saying when it comes to the other side of the table. So we've talked a lot about why, but what do you guys do? How is Dad Group? What does Dad Group do?
Yeah, so at Dad Guild, we provide a wide range of opportunities for dads to get involved. We recognize that, you can't just have one group that meets one time at the same place every week. That's great. And for anyone who can't make that for whatever reasons, or it's not something they're interested in, they won't go to that. And so we have a wide range of ways for dads to get involved in our community. So we have 4 main programs, which are our fatherhood peer support, our dads and kids programs, our caregiver education, and our whole family events. So for our dads only events, we do a lot of dads night out events. We went and saw the new Mission Impossible movie earlier this week. We had basketball. We do open gym basketball every Tuesday night. We do a monthly campfire. We do a new dad cohort. There's a whole bunch of ways. And then for dads and kids, we do a bunch of play groups, and we've gone to UVM sporting events, we've gone rock climbing, the pinball co-op, all kinds of cool things. Our caregiver education, we offer hybrid workshops. We have book groups people can sign up for. We have a monthly podcast that comes out. And then for whole family events, in the winter we have a concert series. We have Breakfast with Bluey, where we eat pancakes, watch Bluey, and then we turn off the lights, crack some glow sticks, and have a dance party. It's super awesome, yeah. And then people who come to those events are more likely to get engaged in other events. And we're finding that people who come to at least 3 or more events, they end up with significantly higher numbers of other friends than dads who don't. So the data's there.
That's great. Much of the work you did, as you've just said, is with new dads. Dads don't end, hopefully. You keep being a dad. Why do you have, do you have more programs for older dads, such as myself, who have teenagers now?
Yeah. Well, I hear having a teenager, it's really easy. It's no questions you probably have.
I've got all the support I need. I'm all set.
Yeah, I worked with teens for most of my professional life, and I love them so much, and they're fun. And our organization, we've been around 6 years, and our growth has been, we've been very thoughtful around controlling our growth. And the dads who were the initial founders, we had young kids at the time, so that was kind of our focus. And also there's a lot of research that shows those first 3 to 5 years are just critical in brain development and establishing relationships and building trust. And now as we're growing, everyone who has been part of our organization for 6 years now, their kids are all 6 years older.
That's right.
And there's a whole, now we're talking cell phones, now we're talking dating, all these things. And so as we're growing, we're also increasing the capacity to support other programs of dads of kids of all ages. And so we're leaning more into that. And any of our dads only events, we have dads of kids of all ages who show up to those.
Awesome. Coalition building, foundation building, and new dads are going to come in, and the whole idea is that it's a community, right? So everyone's sort of looking out for those that come behind them.
Yeah, I have this really romantic vision of the future where, like, dads, the empty nesters, then come back and connect with the new dads and offering support and advice and just really building a beautiful community.
I think if you are another generation older than I am, older than you are, there were dads, back then too, and they didn't have these kind of groups, or they found, their own groups in their own time. So, why do dads need someone to talk to? Why can't we do what our fathers did and just not?
Well, there's a few reasons why that's so important. One is that we're finding research shows that one's social connections and the quality and closeness of those connections is the best predictor of one's longevity. Social isolation is the equivalent of smoking like a pack of cigarettes every day.
Oh.
Yeah, it's really significant. We're finding that like having quality connections is the best predictor of how long one person's going to live. While we also know that over the past 30 years, the number of close friends that men have has cut in half from 6 to 3. And so, which means over the past 30 years, men have lost 50% of their friends. So that's coming at the time that we're learning how important it is for social connections.
Right.
We know that in the first 5 years of parenting, that roughly 2/3 of dads experience depression, anxiety, and other mental health challenges. And then we also know that men are half as likely to reach out for support and 4 times more likely to kill themselves than women. And so we need to be engaging this population, we need to be offering support, and we need to be building this community because, for a long list of reasons, men are much more isolated now than they were 30 years ago.
Well, Keegan, thank you very much. It's been great talking to you. If you'd like to learn more about Dad Guild, visit the website on the screen. There you can sign up for their newsletter, listen to their podcast, and that takes care of Across the Fence for today. My thanks to the crew behind the scenes here at WCX. I'm Isabella and Claire's dad. This is Across the Fence. Thanks for being part of our family.